before I climb up any stage. Gasper and the boys always perform this ritual behind the stage.
Gasper, you be coward! Coward!
Because I don't get time.
Why you gonna bring your boys? Oh.
No! Kolade, no! Kolade, no! Kolade! No, Kolade! No!
God is calling. God is calling.
The story begins with a gang of unknown men chasing after a guy amidst the forest in the middle of the night. They kept chasing him until they caught him. He begged them to spare his life, but they didn't listen. They killed him. Here is Timi, singing on stage, performing before a large audience. Just as his voice reached its peak, his sister suddenly walked into his room and interrupted him. She told him to wake up from his imagination and come wash the plates with them. Are you wondering what just happened? Yes, it was all in Timi's imagination. In reality, he was standing right in front of his mirror, singing passionately, but in his mind, he saw himself performing on stage before a massive crowd. As Timi and his sisters left the house with their father that day, their father remarked that he had heard Timi singing beautifully that morning. He assumed Timi was preparing for choir ministration. One of his sisters, however, said she thought Timi was only chasing music too hard and that it wasn't really working out for him. Both sisters then teased him, saying he only performed to his imaginary audience in the room and in the toilet, while his friend Kolade was already singing on international stages and currently touring the UK. In defense, Timi retorted that he had heard they were removed from the music department because of their mischievous behavior. The girls quickly denied it, each blaming the other, which soon led to a heated argument between them. Meanwhile, Kolade had just returned to his father's house after a 6-month UK tour sponsored by his record label. His arrival was met with celebration. Dancers welcomed him with joy, singing his praises and eulogizing him with vibrant steps. Upon meeting his parents, his father, who was a pastor in their church, scolded him, saying that Kolade had chosen to waste his life on music, while his mates were busy doing something noble with theirs. He made it clear that he was not in support of Kolade's passion. Kolade lamented that all he ever wanted was to sing and nothing more. His father opposed, insisting that Kolade could not be a singer under his roof. Rather, he was called to be a preacher of the word, a pastor. Now the argument gets more intense. Kolade told his father that he always encouraged Timi, his friend who sang in church, yet refused to support him in pursuing his passion for music. But Kolade's father replied that his only son could not be a singer and that Kolade's passion would only be what he declared it to be. If I say head pastor, then so be it, he said. He made it clear that he would not bend to Kolade's will. Kolade in turn declared he would not bend to his father's will either, and he stormed out of the house in annoyance. Here is Kolade singing, pouring out his pain and anger. He said he didn't care what anyone thought. He was made for music. The commissioner of police summoned Timi's father to investigate the murder case of a fast-rising musician who had been brutally killed by gang members. Timi's father was tasked with unraveling the mystery behind his death. Remember the guy who was chased and killed by unknown men at the beginning of the movie? Yes, it was him. A lecturer was teaching a class, which happened to be Kolade's class. As the lecturer, Dr. Okoro, was teaching, Kolade suddenly barged in with his gang, causing a distraction and commotion. The lecturer caught Kolade throwing a piece of paper and trying to communicate with Timi. Annoyed, he scolded Kolade, saying, "I don't care whether you're a celebrity or not, but the moment you step into my class, you are nothing. How dare you distract students who are trying to make something better out of their lives?" Interestingly, he asked the class how many of them wanted to be like Kolade, and to his surprise, the whole class raised their hands. Shocked, Kolade apologized for coming late and for distracting the class, promising to be early next time. The lecturer, however, replied, "If you had been more focused, Kolade. You would have chosen a better life for yourself, and your father would probably have been more proud of you. This angered Kolade, who began throwing tantrums at the lecturer. Furious, Dr. Okoro asked him to leave the class and even threatened to have him expelled, especially after Kolade bragged that he was the one who donated money for the hall to be built. Kolade was unmoved. He even boasted that if he got expelled, he would simply go back on tour, make more money, buy the entire building, and fire the lecturer himself. The commotion continued until Kolade and his gang finally stormed out of the class. Dr. Okoro immediately reported the incident to the vice-chancellor and other lecturers, requesting that the school suspend Kolade. To his greatest surprise, they rejected his request, although the vice-chancellor apologized to him. The dean, Professor Ali, told Dr. Okoro not to exaggerate the matter, pointing out that the incident happened only in his class and that he had not been embarrassed in front of the entire school, as he had claimed. The vice-chancellor then reminded him that the university was newly established and explained how Kolade's presence had helped increase enrollment compared to 2 years ago when they had struggled to attract students. Therefore, they had to be cautious about suspending Kolade, because if he projected the school negatively in the news, the situation could become even worse. In conclusion, Professor Ali stated that Kolade could not be suspended simply because he was a celebrity. Another lecturer even teased Dr. Okoro, asking if he had tried taking a selfie with Kolade. The vice-chancellor advised him to let the matter go and promised that Kolade would be spoken to and asked to apologize. Outraged, Dr. Okoro retorted that he had come to the school to teach students, not celebrities, and that if celebrities were the ones running the institution, he would rather resign. He declared he was quitting, but Professor Ali dismissed it, saying it was not a problem since Kolade was the university's selling point. Kolade was seen leaving the school, surrounded by a crowd of people eager to take selfies with him. After 6 months apart, while Kolade had been away on tour, he and Timi finally met again at a bar. They were overjoyed to see each other and exchanged pleasantries before settling into a deep conversation. Kolade admitted that he had been thinking about the real reason they came to school to study. Timi responded that for someone like Kolade, a certificate was really just for his parents' sake. He didn't need it because his life was already sorted. Kolade agreed. Kolade then shared that he had an amazing experience during his tour. Timi confessed that he wanted to be like Kolade, but Kolade laughed, calling him a church boy, and warned that he didn't really know what he was asking for. Timi disagreed, saying his talent was wasting away in the church, and after all, Kolade himself had once been a church boy. Kolade challenged him, saying, "You want the fame I have, but are you ready to pay the price I paid?" Timi, perhaps thinking he meant money, asked, "How much is it?" Kolade, however, tried to convince Timi that he could remain a church boy and still have songs that would travel across the world. Timi disagreed, asking how many of his songs had truly reached beyond the church walls. Kolade answered that Timi's songs traveled with him everywhere. In fact, while on tour, he often listened to the songs they had composed when they were young. He even admitted that Timi wrote powerful songs and told him, "I want to be like you, Timi, so why do you want to be like me?" Interesting twist. Timi envies Kolade's fame and success, but Kolade longs to have what Timi has. Could Kolade be hiding something deeper? Let's keep watching to uncover the mystery behind his words. While they were still talking, Gasper walked up to Kolade with a stern expression and told him that the elder wanted to see him. Instantly, Kolade's countenance fell, and without a word, he left with Gasper. When they arrived at the hotel frontage, Kolade turned to Gasper and asked how long he would have to keep doing this. It seems they were discussing something secretive, maybe even dangerous. Gasper replied that it would last as long as Kolade wanted to keep climbing higher. Kolade protested, saying he had the right to refuse, but Gasper reminded him, "Did you not sign with blood when the contract was placed before you? If so, then you already know what it means if you try to back out." He then gave Kolade the room number 113, and Kolade made his way to the hotel room. When Kolade entered the hotel room, he was shocked to see Samuel, his and Timi's friend, already there with the elder. Surprised, Kolade asked what Samuel was doing there, but Samuel gave no reply. Instead, the elder turned to Samuel and said, "With great sacrifice comes great reward. You will sign record deals and get endorsements of all kinds, but the moment you stop paying me, everything will disappear." What kind of payment is the elder talking about? Could it be the same one Kolade is trying to escape from? We'll soon find out. The elder then dismissed Samuel, and Samuel left the room. Turning back to Kolade, the elder said he had heard about Kolade's successful trip to the UK, but reminded him that he had yet to pay his dues. Kolade answered firmly, saying he had told the elder the last time they met that he was done with him. The elder replied that Kolade was not done with him and reminded him that he made Kolade who he was. Kolade flared up, opposing him angrily. You made nothing. It was my gift and my talent that brought me here. You are a worthless monster, preying on young boys, making them believe they need you to survive. I don't need you. The only place meant for people like you is hell. The elder calmly said, I know, but you seem to forget that you signed in with blood. And the only way out, he paused, staring coldly at Kolade, is with blood. Check the history of young men like you who tried to quit. They all ended up in the grave. Kolade shot back. I cannot be threatened. If you come after me, I'll expose you. I'd rather die than let you have your way with me. No wonder you have no family, said Kolade. Furious, the elder ordered Kolade out of his room. Later, Samuel called Kolade on the phone, excitedly sharing his news. He said a record label would be signing him the next day. He talked about his plans to share his testimony on Sunday, move out of his parents' house, buy his mother a car, and post it on Instagram to trend online, his sure pathway to fame. When Timi heard about this, he told Samuel that this was the kind of life he wanted too, even admitting he was jealous. He asked if the same record label that signed Kolade was also signing Samuel. Samuel confirmed, but added that Kolade would probably be kicked out soon for refusing to pay his dues. Timi scoffed, good for him. I've been asking Kolade to connect me, but he keeps saying I can't pay the price. Samuel warned him that the price was expensive, but Timi insisted, if you and Kolade can afford it, then I can too. He pleaded with Samuel to connect him, and Samuel agreed, saying it wouldn't be a problem. He would talk to Gasper on Timi's behalf. The mention of Gasper made Timi pause. He admitted he had seen Gasper with Kolade, and that he didn't look friendly. Samuel reassured him, Gasper is the key to the fame and money we're looking for. Once you're brought in, you're good to go. Timi then asked Samuel if he would be attending his sister Kate's concert the next day. Samuel replied that he would go, only because Kate was his sister. While Timi was still talking to Samuel, his father called him. He said Kate had reported that Timi had been missing choir practices and had even refused to minister at her upcoming concert. His father asked him why. Timi replied that he was no longer interested, saying he had lost the passion to sing in church. At this, Timi's mother cut in sharply, blaming his father for indulging him with unnecessary questions. She exclaimed that they ought to make Timi lie on the floor and spell Jesus is Lord on his back with a cane, because with the things he was saying, he clearly wasn't okay. That was a funny but sharp response from Timi's mom. Timi's father then asked him where he wanted to sing if not in church. Timi answered that he wanted to go mainstream. His father asked why. Timi explained that he had read a Bible passage the day before that said no one should hide their light under a bushel, but should place it on a stand for everyone to see. He said he wanted to come out of the bushel. His father sat him down and told him the story of Moses in the Bible. He explained how Moses had been a shepherd who used his rod only to direct sheep until he encountered God on the mountain. God told him to throw the rod down, and it turned into a serpent. From that moment on, the rod became the staff of God. With that staff, Moses performed wonders in Pharaoh's palace. His father continued, so it is with your gift, Timi. On its own, your talent is ordinary, but the day you truly encounter God, the day you build a personal relationship with him and submit your gift to him, it becomes God's tool. Then you will do wonders in his kingdom and in your generation. He emphasized that Timi's gift must serve God's purpose, warning him that the kind of big announcement he was seeking would not carry God's blessing. Only God's announcement, he said, comes with blessing and covering. Timi went back into his room and began singing a melodious, heart-touching song about his decision to choose God's glorification over the devil's. The song was so moving that his sisters acknowledged his talent and urged him not to allow the devil to pollute God's anointing upon his life. In the middle of the night, Kolade heard a knock on his door. He went to check who it was, but guess what he found? It wasn't a person, but a paper pasted on his door that read, "You have 24 hours to pay your dues." Terrified, Kolade immediately left his house and drove to his father's place. Upon arrival, he found his father in the living room, studying his Bible. Surprised, his father asked why he had come in the middle of the night. Kolade confessed that he didn't feel safe in his own house and asked if he could spend the night there. His father replied that he could never feel safe while living in sin, reminding him of the condition for staying under his roof. He said God's purpose for Kolade was to take over from him as the general pastor, but Kolade was living a perverted life. Kolade refused, insisting that he was not called to follow in his father's footsteps. He explained that he knew too well what being a pastor had done to his father. Curious, his father asked what he meant. Kolade answered that before his father became a pastor, their family had been close-knit, and he enjoyed fatherly love. But once his father took up ministry, he abandoned them. He cared more about his congregation than his family, often leaving for long mission trips. And when he returned, Kolade felt like a stranger in his own home. He told his father, "You can give me any role, but I don't want the one that took you away from me." His father replied, "You are a man, yet you still behave like a boy." Kolade retorted, "That's because I was denied the privileges of a little boy," the presence of his father. That same night, Timi's father had a disturbing dream. In it, he saw a death photo of Timi, eerily resembling the death photo of a musician he once knew. Waking up troubled, he returned to his study, trying to discern the meaning of the dream. The day after Kate's concert, Timi visited Samuel's house. During their discussion, Samuel asked why Timi hadn't picked up his calls. Timi explained that he had been composing a song for church as punishment, since Kate had reported him to their father. Samuel grumbled, saying he didn't understand why his sister couldn't mind her business. Timi also complained about his sisters, saying they often caused problems and inconveniences for him. Then Samuel asked how desperate Timi was for fame. Timi responded bluntly, "I want to blow." Samuel warned him, "If you want to blow, then you must die." But Timi quickly rebuked him. Samuel smirked and told him he would soon meet Gasper, then left the house. As Samuel was leaving, his sister Kate called out to him, but he ignored her. She came outside, greeted Timi, and Timi asked if she reported him to his dad because he refused to sing at her concert. Kate answered and said Timi knows that it was true he had been skipping choir practices. She then lovingly advised him to align himself with God's plan for his life and not let the devil hijack the gift God had given him. Later, Kate met with Reverend Kolade's father. She asked him, "What do you do when it seems like everyone around you is falling away? When those you started with are no longer interested in running the race?" Reverend replied, "You keep running. God's calling is not a group call, it is individual. Just as a runner fixes his eyes on the finishing line, so should you fix your gaze on Jesus. If your eyes are fixed on your friends, you will stumble and miss the race." Then he quoted Hebrews 12:2. Meanwhile, Kolade was at a club enjoying himself when Gasper entered with his boys. Gasper confronted him, demanding they talk, but Kolade refused, boasting that he stood alone and no longer belonged to their record label. The argument escalated into a commotion, during which Gasper fired a gunshot. Kolade managed to escape and ran for his life, but Gasper and his boys chased after him. They eventually caught up with him where he tried to hide. Just then, the police arrived at the scene. Gasper and his men quickly fled, leaving Kolade behind. Among the policemen was Timi's father, who was shocked to find Kolade there. He asked him what he was doing at such a place, and afterward escorted him to his father's house. When Kolade's father heard about what had happened, he looked at his son sternly and asked in a loud voice if it was true that he had been wasting away at the clubhouse. Then Timi's father suggested to Kolade's father that he should let Kolade settle down first and then have a heart-to-heart talk with him, because he sensed there was much to talk about. Kolade's father grew annoyed and asked Timi's father if he was trying to teach him how to reach his own son, or if he was implying that he did not love his son. He added that if Timi's father was trying to win Kolade over to himself, then perhaps he should go away with Kolade, because Kolade could not stay in his house and be part of his madness. Kolade's wife tried to calm him down, but it was clear he had made up his mind. She then asked Timi's father to take Kolade home with him that night and promised he could return in the morning. Kolade's father, however, insisted that Kolade would not be allowed back into his house. His wife reminded him that no matter what had happened, Kolade was still his son. But he retorted that Kolade had disrespected him far too much. Left with no choice, Timi's father took Kolade home with him that night. After they left, Kolade's mother tried again to reason with her husband. She told him that they needed to bring their son back home. But Kolade's father said he stood before people to preach holiness, yet they saw him as the father of a boy who preached immorality. He said he had always strived to uphold godly virtues and principles, but instead of being judged by his own deeds, he was being judged by the deeds of his son. His wife reminded him that he had always preached about God's love, yet here he was casting his own son out of his presence. She said, "If Kolade cannot understand the love of his earthly father, how will he ever understand the love of God the Father?" Then she left the room. When Timi's father and Kolade got home, he gave Kolade a cup of water to drink. Then he asked Kolade to tell him everything that happened. Kolade began by saying music had always been his passion. He was desperate to be heard. Then his best friend introduced him to Gasper. Timi's father asked who Gasper was. Kolade said Gasper manages a record label. Gasper promised to give him a platform on the condition that Kolade joined his record label. Kolade said he thought it was a regular record label, but he didn't know that he was going to be initiated into cultism. Everyone in Gasper's label undergoes an initiation, and to seal it, he was asked to pay a courtesy visit to the Grand Commander of the cult, who goes by the name Elder, which he did. The day they paid Elder a visit, he was unusually nice and hospitable. He even promised to make his dream come true, and for that he was deeply grateful. As he continued speaking, he broke into tears. He said that he had fallen asleep, and by the time he woke up, Elder had already had his way with him. He had been sexually assaulted. Gasper later explained that this was the final stage of the initiation, and that he would have to pay his dues and renew his membership every year by returning to Elder to perform this abominable act. After the initiation, he witnessed a rapid surge of fame, with deals coming in from all angles, and he struggled to keep up with the influx. Timi's father asked if that was how he went for the UK tour, and he said yes. Kolade continued. He said, people see the outward performance, but no one knows what goes on behind the stage. Timi's father asked him what he meant by that. He said that before he climbs up any stage, Gasper and his boys always perform a ritual for him behind the stage. When Gasper releases him to perform, everyone goes wild and loses consciousness of what is happening. It is just him and the people, and then something he cannot explain empowers him, giving him so much confidence. Even his silence provokes so much noise. Timi's father asked Kolade why then were they after him. Kolade said his deal was supposed to last 5 years, but this is his second year and he wants to quit. He said he knew that decision might cost him his life, but he was determined to break free. He also said his best friend wanted to quit, but his body was found lifeless the very next day in the forest. If you are thinking about the guy that was murdered in the beginning of the movie, yes, you're right. He is the one, the same case that was assigned to Timi's father. Timi's father went inside, get the boy's photo and showed it to Kolade to confirm if that was the person he was talking about. Kolade said yes. Kolade broke down in tears and said, he is lost. Can God ever find him? Timi's father said yes. God had been waiting for him. He said God is the good shepherd who leaves the 99 sheep and goes in search of the lost one. He told Kolade that Jesus Christ can deliver him from every evil covenant and everything the devil had tied him with. Timi's father told him to call on Jesus' name, and Kolade did. He fell into a trance for some time, and he saw that as he called the name of Jesus, he broke free from those who held him down. Samuel took Timi to Gasper that same night. He pleaded with Gasper to sign Timi to the record label. Gasper refused and said it was not his call, and Elder is angry. He is not collecting new entrants again ever since Kolade messed up, and until Kolade goes down, no one goes in. When Timi heard Gasper mentioned Kolade's name, he wanted to talk, but his phone rang. Guess who was calling? It was Kolade. Gasper asked him to pick up. Meanwhile, Kolade had sensed that Samuel could have taken Timi to Gasper and he could be initiated. That was why Kolade and Timi's parents were trying to get through to him to tell him to come back home. But it was too late. Timi was already in front of Gasper, and Gasper already knew it was Kolade that was calling. So when they told Timi to leave, he said he couldn't because he was at gunpoint. Gasper collected the phone from Timi and threw it on the floor in annoyance. He told Timi that he would take him to Kolade. After Gasper dropped the phone, Kolade told Timi's parents that Gasper and his gang were coming. Gasper and his boys held Samuel and Timi hostage and drove them to Timi's house. When they got there, they stood outside and called Timi's father on the phone. They demanded that he bring out Kolade, promising to release Timi if he complied. Otherwise, they threatened to carry out jungle justice and set Timi on fire. They beat Timi mercilessly and poured petrol on him, preparing to set him on fire. They handed Samuel the lighter and ordered him to burn Timi, but Samuel couldn't bring himself to do it. Meanwhile, Kolade's father had a nightmare. He woke up and told his wife that he saw Kolade on fire, and Kolade told him that the reason he was there was because of him. Then he went to intercede for his son. Also Kate, Samuel's sister, had a bad dream about Samuel and told their mother, and they began to pray for Samuel. Timi's father went to his study and called one of his fellow police officers to explain the situation at his house. He requested that a team of policemen be sent over. Then he picked up his gun and returned to the living room. Looking at his wife and Kolade, he said that someone would be going down that night, but it definitely would not be his son. Kolade wanted to surrender himself to Gasper so that Timi could be released, but Timi's father tried to stop him. He assured them that some of his men were on their way to help. However, when he called the police officers again, he was told their vehicle had broken down. Determined to save his friend, Kolade stepped out of the house to confront Gasper and prevent Timi from being killed. The moment Gasper saw him, he shot Kolade. Just as Gasper and his gang advanced, the police finally arrived and engaged them in a fight. Kolade was rushed to the hospital. While he battled for his life, Timi and Samuel regretted their actions and prayed earnestly for the Lord to deliver Kolade from the jaws of death. Elder was eventually arrested and brought to justice. In loving memory of Kolade's best friend, whose life had been cut short by these wicked men, Kate, Timi, Kolade, and Samuel rendered a heartfelt song in church. In the end, Kolade, Timi, and Samuel acknowledged their mistakes and reconciled with God.
If you enjoyed this recap, suggest a Christian movie you will like to see on this channel. Thank you for watching.